So, welcome to the 8th Bromley Course in Miracles study group, our last one today. So we're going to be kind of bringing it all back together again and hopefully be very interactive about what you've learned and your examples. And really the final thing to think about is the atonement, isn't it? The at-one-ment, the final kind of aim, if you like, of being whole and one with God again, even if you're still here. Or the undoing of the ego, as the Course says, the atonement actually is. So I want to start today by just kind of going back over the bigger picture, if you like, and in some ways just strip that really down. Again, this is just my way of thinking about it. This is my way that it's kind of made sense to me. So we have God, if you like, all that is. Omnipresent, omniscient, everything included, nothing left out of it, all that is in existence. Okay? Now if you think when that was all that is, if you like, God was just the only thing, when you are one, you can't know anything about yourself. You can be aware that you exist as such, but you can't know anything of yourself because consciousness is a duality. You need to be conscious of something, okay? So if you were the only person alive, how would you know you at all? Unless you've got something else to compare it against. So one cannot know as such anything about itself. So it produces God's Son, a copy of itself, if you like. Now this copy is exactly that, a copy. So it has all of the same qualities. So we are the Son of God when we're all joined as one, if you like. So we are. So all that is unchanging because it's complete. It's all that is. It's everything. It's done. Okay. So it's complete. It's unchanging and it's aware. When the Son of God arrives, if you like, it's still in some ways at source unchanging, complete, creator, all of those kinds of qualities that the one, the God has. Except now it is conscious of God as well, because there's two now, if you like. So we have God and God's Son. And if I go back to the jigsaw analogy, and let's say God makes a jigsaw out of his Son and cuts it up into millions and millions of bits and pieces, each one is still the same as God, just now appears separate and divided, yeah? And if I identify with puzzle piece, I'm identifying with the ego as such. I'm making huge sort of generalizations here, but just for the analogy. So if I'm a puzzle piece, single self, small self I, Theresa, rather than Son of God, if you like, I'm different and separate from you, I'm teacher, your students, all of that kind of thing, then really I'm identifying, let's say, with the ego. In order to become one again, and this is what the Course is teaching us, the at-one-ment, is where I don't identify with this small self, I identify myself as the whole thing. So if we sort of used it in human terms, you've got God the Father, because the Father can create the Son, if you like, but the Son can't give birth to the Father, can't create the Father. However, by being born, coming into existence, it makes the Father so. Because in human terms, before, that is just a man and a woman. They are just a man and a woman. By having a child, they become parents. They become mother and father. So when we use father in the Bible and the Course, I think it's really just to show that one-way relationship. God created you, you didn't create God. And again, the Course in some ways differentiates between something that is created and something that is made. So we were created by God from the original source. So the definition is, from the original source you create. Everything was created when, although there isn't a beginning, but when God was created, because it's all that is. So it's like having all that is on my arts table, right? Let's say that's God, this arts table. There's crayons, there's clay, there's everything, okay? It's the art table, all that is. So I can now make things from the clay and maybe combining it with the pencils or whatever it may be, but I cannot create anything new. So we are in some ways makers, we're not creators on this level of reality. We are, you know, out there as such when we wake up, but on this physical level as such, like in your dreams, you can only make a dream from what's in your head already. You can't create anything that's outside of your knowledge, can you? When you're asleep, when you're dreaming. The dream comes from your brain and whatever is stored in it. So it's the same analogy as such. So it's important to realise that definition, that difference that God created us but we didn't create God, I think is emphasised because it then means this is greater and better and bigger. Shouldn't really use those judgment terms, but just to say that, you know, there is something more powerful than you that loves you like a son and therefore is always looking out for you, but also lives through you. Because we live through our children, don't we? That's how we go on. That's, you know, we get pleasure when they do well and all of that kind of stuff. And you get to know yourself as a person through your relationship with others. So the hospital that's challenging me at the moment with my dad is showing me that I can be really assertive, not necessarily in a good way all of the time. So I see that I've got that in me. If that wasn't brought up from out of the ether, if you like, I wouldn't know that I was assertive in not such a positive way sometimes. So, and you get to know yourself as a parent through having the child and interacting with the child and the struggles with the child, and they get to know you as a parent, and later on, hopefully as an adult, they get to know you as a person when that relationship changes. So, although God isn't in this level of reality as such, we can get back there just by changing our mind and our focus. Is this making sense? Yeah? Stop me if it isn't or ask questions. So we, if you like, had this brain and now it got split. We've talked about how the ego was developed, i.e. as we need more communication, more social interaction, more organisation skills. The brain starts to compartmentalise those things like a big business would do. So, you know, I as the CEO can't run everything. I can run my little business, but as I expand, now I have to get someone to do the accounts, I have to get someone to do the payroll. And I have to trust that you know how to do your job, especially when I become multinational. I have managers who just do it. I have no oversight over it. I kind of lose touch with realities, like the MPs and these big CEOs. They lose touch with the reality on the shop floor, if you like. And in some ways, that's what we've done with our ego. So the ego's doing what we asked it to do. It's doing its job. It's running all the different things, running your life subconsciously, where all the programs are. We've just kind of hit autopilot. And if you think you're in a plane, it's just like you're sitting back now having your lunch while the plane is flying itself. Until we become aware and take back conscious control. But we have to take back conscious control, which I think is what the course is really teaching us. Listen, your life isn't happening to you. It's happening because you've pressed the autopilot button and you forgot you did it. And so we have to kind of turn off the autopilot button and start taking responsibility for everything that we are creating, everything that's happening to us. And that's really challenging because, you know, the ego wants you to believe and will come in vehemently. And, you know, I wake up with a sore throat and a cold today and, you know, I feel at this point, because I'm very tired and everything else that's going on for me, all the stresses and stuff, it feels like it's out of my control. Now, when I'm really strong and I'm really happy and healthy and I'm in the zone, I can get straight on that and I can heal that within a day. But at this point in time, it feels like I want to wallow in it. It feels really nice. It's going to perhaps, this is going to sound terrible, but perhaps give me a break from visiting the hospital, because if I'm ill, I can't go. So is there inside me that kind of, I don't really want to heal it that quickly this time? So, you know, but if I know that and I own that decision, do you know what, I need a break from the hospital. I'm emptying my cup. It's now empty. I've got to take some time to refill that. Otherwise, I'm going to the hospital with nothing to give. And you build resentment and all those other things. So the ego will come in and use anything that it can to put you back in your place as such. If you start to feel enlightened and really good, whoo, 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 it will come in. And as soon as it's weakened you a little bit, or at least this is my experience, as soon as it's weakened me a little bit, it's boom, boom, boom. Now my car's buggered. And, you know, and one thing after another kind of thing. So until I can take back control of that and get myself back on track as such, it's going to come in and spiral my life like this. So it's really important that we keep ourselves healthy and well and, good amount of sleep. And as soon as you start falling, to get on top of it. And I know that fully well. I know that more than anyone. And yet, here I am not doing it as such. But I know why. Okay. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because
the fact is, you're aware.
Exactly.
It would have been a lot worse if you had pressed the autopilot and you're going through this, but you're not aware that you've pressed the autopilot.
Because that's what happened to me in depression.
Exactly.
Wow, this is going wrong, and now this is going wrong, and this is going wrong, and you just till you hit the bottom, and then the spirit you ask for help. I remember thinking, oh God, please help me. What is it? I'm a good person. I'm doing Johnny, and it's one thing. And at that point, that's when my journey started to. I didn't know it at that time, but where, I'd given up my free will and gone, yes, now's the time to help me, please. All the time I'm trying to do it, and I'm not prepared to ask. Nothing will overcome your free will, not even the spirit as such. But I was going to say, it's interesting, isn't it? Because even though it looks like this cold, for example, is a negative thing, I'm feeling run down, it will stop me going to the hospital, I know subconsciously and now consciously that actually I probably am creating it because I need a break. I didn't get my break in Spain. I've worked continuously and really busily from January right to this point, and I haven't had a single break. And, that's really, now if I own that, I've taken away the ego's power. Because this is the way the Holy Spirit, if you like, has reinterpreted it for me. And it's still a decision, isn't it? On some level, it's been a decision. I've still created it. I'm still in control of it. And therefore, I could at any moment turn that around. Okay. Where are we? So, the ego knows that you didn't create yourself. And it knows, and before I say this, although I'm speaking about the ego as a person, as such, as a personality, it's just for teaching purposes. It's just a thought system, okay? So, the ego knows that there's something else in there that's got a different opinion. It doesn't know what it is, and it doesn't know where it's come from. And it doesn't really know where it came from. Therefore, it lives in fear. There's something out there bigger and better than me, and I don't know what its agenda is. It seems to keep doing the opposite to what I want to do, and that brings fear. That breeds fear and disempowerment. And when we're disempowered, what are we going to do? When you feel powerless? We're either going to attack, aren't we, or get really defensive about things. Because, you're going to hear everything is attacked when you feel like you're down there. You're going to think everyone is better and higher and stronger than you, if you like. So the ego fears its death, and it fears what else is out there. It really fears your power, or the power of the spirit that you really are, if you want to put it in those terms. And so it keeps on, attacking, or defending, to ensure that it goes on, to ensure its power. Now, in the Course in Miracles, it says that we had a mad, tiny idea, and that's what started this, and we forgot to laugh. Okay, So my imagination says I'm sitting there in heaven, if you like, and I go, I wonder what it would be like if there was something that was the opposite to all that is, or the opposite to God. Now, you cannot have an opposite to all that is, okay? Because that would be all that isn't. Well, if it isn't, it doesn't exist. So you can't do anything with something that doesn't exist. Now that's important for us because if we are all that is, we cannot be anything else. You cannot be the opposite, all that isn't. That means you wouldn't exist. But you cannot not exist because you are part of all that is, because that would be all that is now except you. And it can't happen because by its very nature, all that is all that is. Yeah? Once the puzzle has been cut into pieces, you might lose a piece, you might hide a piece, you might do something like that, but that piece still exists somewhere, okay? And even if, you burnt it, it still exists, but it's now ash. It's changed form, but it still exists. You can never, ever not exist. And even if we take it as, okay, what would it be like to be the opposite to God, if you like? So if we say God is love and light, the opposite that you would be exploring is fear and darkness. Sounds like my life. So in some ways, I think, have you ever had that where you just got lost in thought, where you have this, I do it a lot when I'm driving, oops, where I play out this whole scenario and it goes on and on and on and on, and they'll say this and I'll say that and this will happen and that and that and that, and then I realise, oh no, that's not correct, and I'm back. And I'm conscious all the way through it, and I'm still, if you want to call that the spirit in heaven, is still driving the car. But my mind, my ego mind, if you like, has gone off and is playing a whole scenario somewhere else. And in some ways that's what's happened, isn't it? Our soul, if you like, spirit, whatever you want to call it, is dreaming, is laying there asleep in heaven or daydreaming in heaven that it's having this adventure. And when you're dreaming and when you're daydreaming, it feels very real. There is nothing else. That is all that is. Unless you're practicing lucid dreaming. When you're dreaming, you don't even know it till you've woken up. And then you know you were dreaming. And if you're lucky, you know what you were dreaming about. So that's really what's going on to some degree. What's your thoughts on that? How does that compute with you? Have you come to the same conclusions? I know you haven't all read it all, but any questions come up from that? Any thoughts?
It makes sense.
That's what I was going to say.
Well, it makes sense to me in my logical, rational mind. That's the way I've made sense of it. And it seems to fit all of the bits and pieces in the course as such. So that it's not real, it's a dream. I'm going to wake up and I'll just go, oh, it's a dream. And that doesn't mean when I die, because death is just another scene change in the dream. And in some ways, if we go back to talking on the basic level of reality, if you like, it's the ego's biggest trick, death. Because it's brought us into believing that it's our get-out clause, if you like. To some degrees, we all commit suicide. Because if the body isn't real, and the body can't do anything without an instruction from you, then you're choosing that moment of death. So, I look at my dad, who's on life support at the moment. He's fighting for his life. So he must want to go on. Now, I know he's very frightened of death. So I don't necessarily think he wants to go on, but there's no other option. Because he's very mainstream view of life. It's life or death. And I think as he's approached this older age as well, because he's been talking about things that he didn't talk about before, for example, he used to live behind a cemetery and seeing a horse and cart like a ghostly, the funeral things with the horses. And he says, I swear, no one's going to tell me that wasn't real. I saw that. And he's the most sceptical person out there. So his views are starting to change. So he must be thinking about death and stuff like that. And I've told you my story before when I woke up dead. And so, have I told you that story? Oh. I don't tell a lot of people. Okay, so one morning, I'd been on an astral planing course. This was a Monday morning. All weekend I'd been on a teach yourself kind of astral planing course up in London. And so it'd been really intense. It was like 10 to 10. And we were just practicing and learning and practicing and learning and all of that. And on one part of the course, they were talking about soul rescue, like, i.e. when you're asleep, some people will go and rescue people who are in that limbo state, i.e. because the law of attraction is still in play, you're going to get whatever you believe afterwards. Because you're just still creating. I'm just still creating my life like this. Now I'm creating it that I'm dead. Okay? So you're going to create whatever you... So if you think the lights go out, the lights are going to go out for you. But you're going to still exist. And now what do? You're going to be going... You're just like in limbo. So what they do is, apparently, the souls, the spirits, will go and wake you up and try and tell you, look, you're dead, come on, move on, sort of thing. So that's called a soul rescue. So they were talking about that, and one of the questions I asked is, how would you convince them that they were dead? And also, if you know the film Ghost, Patrick Swayze, he dies and he just carries on as normal because he doesn't realise he's dead. Okay, but that could happen for years. So I said, how would you convince them, someone that's just living their life, that they were dead? And they said, well, you might bring them to a course like this. Now that stuck in my head for some reason, but Now the next day, I wake up. Oh, let me tell my other experiences. On that Sunday, I was standing at the station just by the hoardings like this, space in front of me, space behind me, and people were like almost walking into me. And I thought, this is weird. I just thought it was weird. I didn't really think anything about it. And then one guy come and stood almost like that, as if he couldn't see me. I'm thinking, what's going on here? Anyway, I got into the course and I forgot all about it. I woke up the next morning, and I'd had a dream. I'd split up with a boyfriend a couple of months before that, I think it was. And I'd had a really vivid dream that I can still remember to this day. And there was two of us in chairs here, and someone was coming with a lance, and I knew he was going to kill one of us. And he ended up putting the lance through me here. I can still see it really vividly. So I had been killed in a dream as such, okay? Yeah, anyway, that was months ago. So I woke up on this Monday morning and I was so disorientated. I was like, it's really hard to articulate, but it was like I was here, but I wasn't here. I didn't fit into the space. I felt really different. I felt like I wasn't there, but I could clearly see I was there. And as I'm starting to think about this, it came to me that I may be dead. And I'm thinking, oh, where's the evidence? And I used to keep a dream diary then. So I was looking through my dream diary, and there was all these signs, talking about death and rebirth and all of this kind of stuff. And I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm thinking, well, what do I do? My son was at uni then, so I was living alone. And I was thinking, what do I do? So what did I do? I went to work. Because I thought, what else do I do? So I just carried on living my life. And I was there was no one in at work, although that wasn't unusual for a Monday morning. And I just carried on. But I was so disorientated all day. I just knew there was something wrong. So I rang the college and I said, this is how I'm feeling. Is this normal? Have you ever had this before? And they were kind of like, no. Either you need to come back or you need to see your GP, i.e. you're cracking. I thought that's helpful. Can't go to the GP and say, I'm sorry, I'm dead. Don't know if you can help me or not. So I just kind of tried to work my way through it and just carried on. So to this day, I do not know if I am alive or dead, and just carrying on my life. Am I soul rescuing, doing this work? How do I know? Because the vow is that thin as such. How can I tell whether I'm alive or dead? Any clues? Sorry, could you just pass me the tissues? Yeah, but nothing. I'm not a body, am I? In a dream, you're not a body. In that dream, if it was a dream, I was hit by a lance. I still woke up, as far as I know, in the morning. That's what is the course saying. The body's not real. This is a dream. Did I just reinsert myself into the timeline? did I die in my sleep and just wake up and reinsert myself into the timeline? Because there's no proof you're born. Remember, we did this. You can't remember you're born. In a dream, there's no beginning and there's no end. You just start in the middle, don't you?
So the answer is you don't know, and we don't, but then it's no different from anybody else. Because we don't know if we're alive or dead.
No, you can't prove it. And if we're going to be course students, you know, you're not a body, you're not alive as such. You're alive in heaven, but this is your dream. So that's my waking up dead story. That's in the book as well.
But doing mediumship, when I connect, it's like the person is alive anyway.
But you're creating the dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, do they, you know, they're going on as such, it seems, doesn't it, with a life and will come and talk to you and all of that kind of stuff. Or say, I've seen you, you know, doing this work or something. Or they may even help you, mightn't they? They might even tell you something. So it's crazy, isn't it? Crazy. Okay, why did I start on that? Yeah, so anyway, so reality is very nebulous. Reality, you know, is whatever it is. We don't know. We don't know. And in some ways, that's why we've got to stop controlling it and just give it up to the Holy Spirit, because then you're almost admitting, I think, that, okay, I've realised it's a dream, wake me up. You're asking, you're giving permission. Because the other thing that I've realised is, so we are still God, and God loves his son so much he would never destroy him, okay? Would be destroying himself, wouldn't it? Because it's his child as such. And like us, we may not like our children, we may not, you know, approve of what they're doing or whatever, but we don't kill them if we don't like it, do we? We just try and help them as best we can. So he will never destroy us. Now, our creations, our life, is the same thing, isn't it? It's us going on. I don't just mean your children, your life, everything you're creating is your creation. It's your child, if you like, your baby. We have that saying, don't we? Oh, this is my baby. This project, this is my new baby. So our creations are our children, if you like, and therefore we won't destroy them, which makes it really harder to give up the dream. Because we value it and we treasure it so much. You remember me saying, when I was really reaching bliss, I kept saying, well, why am I still here then? Why am I still here? And I think part of that is because, you know, I still want to be creating. Until I 100% believe that I still will be able to create on the other side, then am I going to give this up? Because there's an analogy, isn't there? If a child finds a coin, and that coin is like, oh, I've got some money, look, I've got something like Mum and Daddy, it's precious or whatever. And I try and say, oh, let me give you this £5 instead. Here, take this. No, this is really... So because of lack of knowledge, they don't realise that they're giving up nothing for everything. And I think that's the same for us. Until you realise, and that's why you have to really get a mindset about what you're going to gain for losing all of this in your existence, as the ego would say. So and of course goes on about what you treasure and what you value. And you may think, oh, I want to get out of here, and, you know, I've had enough of this, and yet, you know, you will fight tooth and nail to survive. So on some level, you know, you've really, really got to get to that place where you really know it's nothing worth saving.
I get it, but I think, how do you live every day? Like, how does a day look after you've totally surrendered?
Good question. Well, I've asked that question, and I think you would have to live like Jesus.
In complete joy.
Never judging anyone.
Yeah.
Never caring what anyone thinks about you. Just going around being love, having no attachments. Because Jesus tells his disciples all the time, give everything away, and everything will be provided for you. Because what is that? That's the final kind of step, isn't it? Going, I really believe. I really trust. And I've been able to do it a little bit with money. I don't, because I had huge programming on money. I don't worry about money now. I don't kind of think about, how many clients have I got and how many classes have I got and all of that, the way I used to. So to some degree, not fully yet, but to some degree, I'm doing that. I'm saying, okay, I trust the universe. I know there'll always be enough, and there is always enough to pay all of the bills, no matter if I've only got, like 4 or 5 clients. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to me, and I have money in the account that I didn't think I had, or more than I thought I had. And it seems to just work perfectly. So if I can grow that, still got huge programming on money. And again, the reciprocal relationship of giving and receiving is huge. Huge. Especially with time and effort and things like that. I've put a lot of time and effort into my life, into my career, into my son, into my house, into my new garden, into visiting my dad. Am I going to give that up? I've worked so hard for all of that. In some ways it's so simple, but we've made it so complex that we've got to kind of untangle everything and every belief, every negative belief and program. And of course, every day it's being reinforced by others around us. Again, I could give you an example visiting my dad. My 2 sisters, who don't have the same view of me, you go on after death and that, are worried every time the machine alarms go off, and will he survive, and we've got to do this and we've got to do that, and whereas kind of I'm like, well, if he wants to live, he'll live, but I can't say that to them because they get really upset. So there is my ego, reinforcing continuously, and the nurses, and the fact that I'm there believing he's a body, and now I'm running down believing I'm a body. All of this, it just is so much to work on as such. But
it's relentless. There's no, give me a break. It just keeps going.
The only way I find a break is doing my silence, is going away and leaving everything. And my vibration goes through the roof because there is no judgment. I'm not talking to anyone, I'm not dealing with anyone, I'm not, having any judgments, any evaluation. There's, no ego involved in that at all, and especially if I'm meditating a lot. So that, for me, is heaven on earth. That's the closest that I can get. And if I could be brave enough to give all of this up and just go and live as a recluse somewhere, hopefully in a sunny place, that would be the closest that I could get, I think, to... And then that's what Jesus did, though, didn't he? He disappeared for 20-odd years. Some say he went to India and learned from the gurus and all of that. Then he was ready to come back and live it, because you have to prove you can live it. And so, if I could go off for a period and do my silence and really get to that place, I would still have to then come back and really try and hold to it. In which case, like Jesus, the ego's going to come and bring everything. Judas, Pontius Pilate, everything, the priests of the temple.
Because of the way we live today, if you said that if you were moved somewhere remote, somewhere sunny, there was a village, a community of people, you all lived the same.
Like kibbutz and things like that.
Yeah, that would be easier, wouldn't it, to function the way you want to live in that setting.
Yeah.
But coming back into this world, cities, towns, that's hard.
It's going to be the hard. And the other thing that my ego comes in with is, because then you should be able to create miracles and things like that. If I became Jesus, if you like, living his life and doing everything that he did, what's going to happen to me? I'm going to get crucified. Not literally, but I'm going to get ridiculed. I'm going to lose my job. If I start levitating in the middle of the class, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my livelihood. I'm going to, be hated. The government might come out and get me if I start committing miracles and things like that. The ego comes in and goes, yeah. You can do it to a certain point, but you know what's going to happen then, don't you? That's why you can't believe you're a body, because Jesus didn't believe he's a body. Yeah, come on, crucify me. Don't matter to me. I'll be up in 2 days. 3 days. So it's interesting though, isn't it? But I find it really interesting that, I don't know a lot about the Bible, but all the bits of the Bible that I do know fit perfectly with the Course in Miracles, and fit perfectly with how the ego will chase me down. And the things that you have to do, like give away everything. When you can get to that point, you've cracked it as such, haven't you? And I read a really good book, oh God, I can't remember what it was called now, somebody gave me. And it was about a priest who, he lived through the war. He was a young child in the war in the Netherlands, I think. And he would sort of do things against the Germans and that. He would run errands for the resistance and things like that. And so he was always a bit of a fighter. And then after the war, eventually he became a priest. And he writes all of his stories. He says, you know, like things like his mission was to send Bibles to a lot of the Baltic states and those kinds of places where communism was and that, because they weren't allowed Bibles. So his mission was to give everybody who wanted a Bible. And there were still like little churches, secret churches and things like that going on. And so he had stories like, because he had no money, he just lived like a disciple, if you like. And he tells, I remember the one story where he's in his car approaching a checkpoint in Czechoslovakia, I think it was, and his boot was full of Bibles. And he thought, oh my God, this is it, you know, they're searching all the cars, they're going to see all the Bibles. And they searched his car and didn't see the Bibles. And I just think that's such an amazing story. And, you know, I read that and I think, oh yeah, I've got to do that, but for some reason I just can't yet. I'm not there. But, you know, if other people could do it, why can't I? He was just a normal man. Why can't all of us? Okay, so let's go through the sheet as such. Use this as a guide as such, as I haven't got the flip book. So the atonement, I haven't given you the sheet. Sorry, excuse me one moment. So there's 3 pages if you want to hand those around. Is there 3? Should be 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one of those as well. Excuse me, snippet. Okay, so we'll start with the atonement, the undoing. So these are just bits and pieces that I've pulled out of my diaries and direct quotes as well from the course. So the atonement denies the ability of anything not of God to affect you. I.e., only God's will affect you, nothing else is real as such. Accepting the atonement teaches you that by accepting your guiltlessness, you learn the past has never been, and so the future is needless and will not be. So let's just talk a little bit about time. The past, how do I know what this box of tissues is? How do I know what to do with them, what they're for, what they are?
Sure, program us.
Yeah, you've been taught in the past.
Yeah.
So let's say I have a file, so my brain goes, oh, square box, white thing sticking out the top. This is a box of tissues. So I have a file, a checklist if you like. The brain matches patterns and tells me, oh, that's a box of tissues. So to some degree, I'm seeing the box of tissues from the past, a past story. And if I had a story, I don't know, like the box of tissues was on fire and somebody threw it at me or whatever, in that file would also be all that fear and that victimhood and everything. So everybody's file for every single thing is different and based on your experiences of things. So we have that file, and when we see it, the brain goes, oh yeah, that's the box of tissues. And now I'm acting from the past. I'm going to be acting. So I might be fearful of the tissues if that had happened to me, or neutral if nothing had happened to you. So I'm always seeing the past, and therefore I'm always reacting to the past. We know the ego lives in the past. It tells you there's a present. Well, if you think about the word, it's the present. Even though the box of tissues look like they're present, I'm seeing the present information. And therefore the future seems like it comes about from the past or the present, the present, which is really the past. And so I can't change the future, it seems. I can't tell the future, I can't predict it continuously, I can't change it. But also because the future is effect from something that's happened in the past or the present, the present, yes? Remember cause and effect. You can only change a cause, you cannot change an effect. So I can't change the future. Obviously the past is, I believe, is causing my present, the present, and therefore I can't change the past because it's cause, and now is the effect. However, the now is outside of space and time. I've lost my tissue. What have I done with it? The now is outside of space and time. The now is a concept, is your conscious mind, if you like, filling the space. Difficult to talk about here because of language. But let's think about you're in a cinema, okay? So I'm in a cinema watching the film. So the film runs, let's say I've been in there half an hour, that looks like the past. The bit I'm watching now is the present, and there's the future on the reel, okay? I can't do anything about that film, it's on autopilot, it's running, yeah? The film just runs. Now, if I didn't know, let's say I'm the ego, this is how the ego watches the film, it's reacting to the film. I get emotional if there's a tearful scene, or I get frightened if something jumps out. So all the ego can do, because it only knows the past and the future, is react, okay? The now, if you like, is somewhere else. This is why I mean it's not in space and time. It's not in the cinema, if you like. Now, let's say I'm the projector, the projectionist, and I'm running the projector, okay? Now, the ego doesn't know there's a projector. Like when you're a child, you think the pictures are in the telly, or you think the pictures are on the film, don't you? You don't know how the mechanism works. So now we are aware, we know that actually we're called the projectionist, the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. So it can stop that film, take it out of the spool, and unwind it, okay? Now it can watch it scene by scene. It knows the past, it knows the present, and it knows the future. The only power is being with Spirit in the now, which isn't in time and space, in the projection room if you like, because now I can start to, oh, I don't like that, let me cut that one out, or let me move this scene to here. Your only place of power is when you've stopped, become present in the now, or conscious of what you're creating and what is happening on the film, then you can change it, because you have become cause. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So accepting the atonement teaches you that by accepting your guiltlessness, you learn the past has never been, because I can only feel guilty about something that I think is in the past. But if the past doesn't exist, time doesn't exist. Even Einstein said time and space doesn't exist as a thing, it's relative. And he has a quote something like, an hour spent with a pretty girl feels like a minute, but a minute on a hot stove feels like eternity. So time starts with you. Time comes from you and the process of your thoughts. In fact, it only comes from the ego, really, I would go as far to say. So the Spirit is out of time and only knows the now, which is where the only place of power is, which is why it's teaching us to let everything go to Spirit, because it's the only thing that can sort everything out. We think we're in control of everything, we think we can do everything, but actually we're just leaving the ego's trick of time and space and cause and effect. So seek not to change the world, but seek to change your mind about the world. It's all in your head, it's your dream. With everyone, you are in the presence of God, because we're all jigsaw puzzle pieces. We're all just puzzle. It might look separate and different, but actually we are still God, Son of God, made from the same material, allowing God to know itself and us to know ourselves through him. Seek the love of God and you will see it everywhere, because it is everywhere. And those lovely people who just see everything as love and as God and as, you know, there's no problem here. Oh, wow. That is because they are so connected to God as such. Oh, and the other thing with space and time, I think I said this before, and this makes law of attraction perfectly reasonable or understandable. Law of attraction says the more you think about something, the quicker it will come. If I give 90% of my time and attention to something, it will manifest through quicker because it only has 10% of space to move through. Yeah? If I only think about something 10% of the time, it's going to take longer to get to me, if you like, through the space. It's not strictly true, but that's an analogy. So think about this. Let me see where it is. It's on here somewhere. I'll just say it, we'll come to it in a minute. If I give 90% of my time and attention to God, how much closer am I going to feel to him? If I only give 10% of my time to God, how far away from me is he going to feel? And I thought that was really nice. That was really. It's on here somewhere. I'll come to it in a minute, so I'm having trouble seeing it. You cannot love parts of reality and understand love, because love is all inclusive and integrative, and our reality is full of division and separation and projection and all of those kinds of things. So really, that's when I go back to a few weeks ago when I said, we don't know love here. You cannot know love here, what it really is. There's the small L love, if you like, which is the ego's love to get something. But true love is complete, has no needs, no lack, and really is a facet of oneness. You do not have to seek reality. It will seek and find you if you meet its conditions, i.e. if you get out of the way and stop asking for something else. Salvation comes with the realization that my wishes and God's will are one. And God's will is that you have everything and that you are happy. And I really used this when I read that in the course. I just spent the whole day going, well, I can give it up to God's will, because God's will is that I'm happy, and that's my will. Everything I'm asking for, everything I'm doing is just to be happy. So if I just give it up to God, and I spent a real good few weeks doing that, and my life was amazing. And then I slipped, and then the ego comes in. But when I was doing it, that was fantastic, because I think that's one of the lessons, if I remember correctly. Salvation is rebirth of the idea that no one can lose for anyone else to gain. And again, that's so important. That's why I did the whole session on the reciprocal relationship of giving and receiving. Because it's as you give, you receive. And I go into this in great detail in the new book, because I really strip it down using a practical example of giving a gift of perfume, for example. And all the different facets of that is how you value that gift, how I value that gift. If I bought it for £30 from the market instead of £100 from Debenhams, other shops are available, does it make it any less because I paid £30 for it? If I paid £30 for a dress, I'll wear it every day. If I paid £100 for a dress, it's very special and I'll only wear it on special occasions. All of those kinds of things. And when you get into, are you able to receive? Because that's a lot of our problem, isn't it? We can give, but some of us can't receive. And if we cannot receive, I'm blocking the natural flow of giving and receiving. I'm stopping you having the gift of the love that you have tried to give to me. And that's why the thought that counts is not just a proverb, it's really important, because by giving you that gift through love, without expectation of return, key phrase, without expectation of return, I'm going to love you no matter what. I'm going to give you this gift. If you throw it in the bin, that doesn't matter. I gave you it with love. If you, praise me, and want to buy me something back, that's different. That's something else. But I gave that with love. I'll receive that gladly. Because then I'm honouring that one thing. It's two sides of one coin. You can't have tails without heads. So, giving and receiving are one thing. And that's especially true in love and judgment. Anything that you can think of, not just practical things. Everyone must, and again, it comes back again, doesn't it? What am I giving up here? My ego tells me I have to gain something better. Otherwise, it's not worth giving up. So that's why it's key as well. In order to realise that you have nothing to lose by doing this work fully is really important. Everyone must gain in God's plan. And every day you can be born again, which takes me back to my waking up dead story. Was that what I did? Because I can look back and everything changed from that, everything. And it's interesting, it was 2011 into 2012, so I find that 2012 date really interesting, because that's what they were saying, wasn't it? It's end of cycle. It wasn't the end of the world, it was ends of cycle, moving into completely new. And obviously it doesn't 21st to 12, that's it. 21st of December 2012, that's it, everything changes. It's the build up to it. That's the crux point, if you like, and moves from there. So, I think it was June 2012, if I remember correctly, that I had that experience, and, so that the dates are significant for me. Okay, I think we're going to pause there for a minute and have a cup of tea or cold drink. Anybody want to say anything from there? Anything coming to mind?